morning, everybody. Here I am, Professor Edward in the building. Today, I'm here to save the educational system because, right now they're failing the kids, alright? We are at an all-time low right now with the grades, and I don't like that. So today's topic, presidents that got assassinated. It's gonna be a little calm 12-question quiz, alright? You better get a 12 out of 12. So I hope you guys studied that, right? And if you did study, then that's a good thing. That means you're gonna pass, right? And with all that being said, Professor Edward is out.
Abraham Lincoln.
Okay guys, I just now realized that my face cam angle is not the best. It's kind of messed up a little bit, but that is okay though, because this video is still gonna be a banger. Okay.
In the summer of 1864, the Civil War was still raging, and President Lincoln was running for re-election. He faced considerable opposition and threats from Confederate sympathizers and others who were unhappy with his leadership and the ongoing war.
And I think I know why. I actually remember my history teacher telling the whole class this. Literally at that time, he was one of the few people that actually agreed with abolishing slavery. I mean, at that time, slavery, it was at its all-time high.
1864, Lincoln was traveling from Washington, D.C. to the Soldiers' Home, a retreat located about 3 miles from the White House, where he often stayed during the summer months to escape the heat and pressures of the capital. The journey to and from the Soldiers' Home was considered risky due to the isolated and wooded nature of the area. During one of these trips, while Lincoln was riding in his carriage, a shot was fired at him. The bullet went through his hat, but miraculously, Lincoln was unharmed.
Yo! You see, the ops caught him lacking, but they could have finished the job.
Accounts of the event suggest that Lincoln was quite calm and nonchalant about the incident,
Nonchalant?
reportedly saying that it was not—
Of course, Lincoln would be nonchalant, right? Lincoln, he was tall. He was about 6'4", 6'5" with a hat on. And on top of that, he was nonchalant as well. Lincoln, you got it, bro.
Reportedly saying that it was not his time to die. The incident was investigated, but the shooter was never identified. It was suspected that Confederate sympathizers or other individuals opposed to Lincoln might have been responsible. Abraham Lincoln, too.
What?
On the evening of April 14th, 1865.
Wait, why is there 2 Abraham Lincolns, bro? What the freak?
President Abraham Lincoln was—
Oh, the movie theater. Yes,
attending a play at Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C. The play was Our American Cousin, and Lincoln was in a particularly good mood, as the Civil War had just ended a few days earlier with the surrender of Confederate General Robert E. Lee. John Wilkes Booth, a famous actor and Confederate sympathizer, had been plotting against Lincoln for some time. Initially, Booth had planned to kidnap Lincoln, but after the war's conclusion, he decided to assassinate him instead. Booth and his co-conspirators planned to kill several top government officials to destabilize the Union government. Booth himself took on the task of killing Lincoln. During the play, Booth slipped into Lincoln's private box and shot him in the back of the head with a small pistol.
Alright, my question is, right, if you're the president of the United States, right, why was it so easy to access the same room that Abraham Lincoln was in? I just want to know.
After firing the fatal shot, Booth leapt from the box to the stage, injuring his leg in the process, and escaped the theater, shouting, "Sic semper tyrannis," which means thus always to tyrants in Latin. Lincoln was carried across the street to a boarding house, where doctors attended to him through the night, but his wound was mortal. He died the next morning at 7:22 a.m. on April 15th, 1865. Booth fled Washington, D.C. and was pursued by Union soldiers. After 12 days, he was found hiding in a barn in Virginia. The barn was set on fire to flush him out, and he was shot and killed by Sergeant Boston Corbett. James Abram Garfield. James Abram Garfield, the 20th President of the United States, was shot on July 2nd, 1881 by Charles Julius Guiteau. Guiteau, a mentally unstable office seeker who believed he deserved a political appointment from Garfield, had been stalking the president for weeks. On the morning of July 2nd, Garfield was at the Baltimore and Potomac Railroad Station in Washington, D.C., preparing to leave for a summer vacation. As he walked through the station with Secretary of State James Gillespie Blaine, Guiteau approached from behind and fired 2 shots. One bullet hit Garfield's arm, while the other lodged in his abdomen. Garfield was taken to the White House, where he was treated by doctors who, unfortunately, made numerous mistakes. The medical practices of the time were not aseptic, and doctors used unsterilized instruments and hands to probe Garfield's wound repeatedly, searching for the bullet, which led to severe infection.
I can't— Wait, what? He got infections? Oh no! I can't imagine the amount of stress it has to be to go to a doctor's office. Imagine getting surgery, because how much you wanna bet? Anesthesia was not a thing back then. So that means they actually had to go through the surgery with feeling the pain. Oh, I can't even think about it, guys. And to make it worse, they were unsanitary. Y'all know dang well them doctors, they were probably not washing their hands, even though they should have been doing that, but they probably weren't even washing their hands.
Garfield's condition worsened over the summer as he endured intense pain and high fevers. Despite various attempts to improve his health, including moving him to the seaside in New Jersey, he did not recover. After 79 days of suffering, Garfield succumbed to his injuries and the ensuing infections on September 19th, 1881. Guiteau was immediately arrested after the shooting. He was tried for murder, and despite his claims of insanity, he was found guilty and executed by
Man, you wasn't insane. He actually thought he was slick with that card. Oh my gosh, I'm mentally insane. That's why I killed him. Oh! Come on, man.
Hanging on June 30th, 1882.
Oh, they hanged him? Oh, they hanged him.
He was found guilty and executed by hanging on June 30th, 1882.
Oh!
William McKinley. On September 6th, 1901, McKinley was attending the Pan American Exposition in Buffalo, New York. While at the Temple of Music, McKinley was greeting the public during a reception. Leon Czolgosz, an anarchist who believed that the government was oppressive and unjust, approached McKinley with a concealed pistol.
Whoa.
Pretending to be in line to shake hands with the president, Czolgosz fired 2 shots at close range. One bullet grazed McKinley, while the other penetrated his abdomen. McKinley initially seemed to be recovering after being taken to the hospital. Surgeons operated on him but could not find the second bullet. Despite early signs of improvement, McKinley's condition took a turn for the worse due to gangrene and infection setting in around the wounds. On September 14th, 1901, 8 days after being shot, McKinley died from his wounds, and Vice President Theodore Roosevelt was immediately sworn in as the 26th President of the United States. Leon Czolgosz was quickly apprehended at the scene of the crime. He confessed to the assassination, expressing no remorse for his actions. Czolgosz was tried and convicted of murder. He was executed in the electric chair on October 29th, 1901.
He got the chair.
John Fitzgerald Kennedy. On November 22nd,
we all should know this one by now, you know.
1963, President John Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas, Texas. He was there for a political trip to smooth over frictions in the Democratic Party before the 1964 presidential campaign. Kennedy was riding in a motorcade through Dealey Plaza with his wife Jacqueline, Texas Governor John Connally, and Connally's wife Nellie. At 12:30 p.m., as the motorcade passed the Texas School Book Depository, shots rang out. Kennedy was struck by 2 bullets, one in the back and one in the head. Governor Connally was also wounded. Kennedy was rushed to Parkland Memorial Hospital, where doctors tried to save him. However, the wounds were fatal, and Kennedy was pronounced dead at 1 p.m. The nation was plunged into shock and mourning. Shortly after the assassination, Lee Harvey Oswald, a former Marine and defector to the Soviet Union, was arrested for the murder of a Dallas police officer, J.D. Tippit. Later, he was charged with the assassination of President Kennedy. Oswald denied the charges, claiming he was a patsy. The Warren Commission was established by President Lyndon Johnson to investigate the assassination. In 1964, it concluded that Oswald acted alone in killing Kennedy. Despite this, numerous conspiracy theories have persisted, suggesting involvement by various groups, including the Mafia, the CIA, the FBI, anti-Castro Cubans, and even elements within the U.S. government. Ronald Reagan. On March 30th, 1981, President Ronald Reagan was shot while leaving the Hilton Hotel in Washington, D.C. The Secret Service agents acted quickly.
I'm starting to realize a trend right now. If you were a president back in the day, you were likely to get assassinated for whatever reason. I don't know why, but assassination was such a big thing back then. I'm starting to realize that now, guys.
Shoving the president to his limousine, and so only one of the bullets fired from the .22 caliber revolver hit Reagan. As the president was hit under his left armpit, his wound was only noted after he started coughing up blood. With the bullet lodged just an inch away from his heart, the president's wound was life-threatening, and Reagan would stay 12 days in the George Washington University Hospital. His shooter was John Hinckley Jr., who had developed a paranoid infatuation with then-child actress Jodie Foster after having watched the film Taxi Driver. After his attempts to contact Foster proved fruitless, Hinckley came to believe that the only way she would notice him was through the assassination of a president. Hinckley thus began to stalk President Jimmy Carter. Although he had gotten close to Carter, he changed his target to the new president shortly after his inauguration. After firing 6 bullets, Hinckley was put to the ground and was ultimately found not guilty by reason of insanity.
Now, didn't that last dude that I was talking about, he said that he was insane too?
Remained in institutional psychiatric care until 2016. Theodore Roosevelt. On the evening of October 14, 1912, Theodore Roosevelt was in Milwaukee campaigning for a 3rd term as president. While walking to the car, a crowd started to gather around the presidential candidate, and Roosevelt came face to face with John Schrank, who was armed with a .38 caliber Colt revolver. The bullet hit Roosevelt on the right side of his chest, but he was protected by a thick 50-page speech manuscript folded in half and the metal case where he stored glasses. While Schrank was being wrestled to the ground, Theodore Roosevelt asked for mercy for his shooter, restoring the order before the arrival of the police. Despite the bleeding and the bullet still inside him, Roosevelt decided to give the speech he had planned in the Milwaukee auditorium. After his 1-hour speech, he was rushed to a local hospital and then to Chicago, where the doctors decided against removing the bullet. Roosevelt would die.
I'm done. I'm done. You mean to tell me that he got shot? You know what I'm saying? And this is the president, by the way. This is the president of the time. Bruh. I think I just hit my mic, my bad. And you mean to tell me that the hospital decided to not remove the bullet, knowing what could happen if they did remove the bullet? Like, why would you want to keep a bullet inside your body for that long? Like, come on.
With it still inside his chest a few years later. Schrank, who claimed to have dreams in which U.S. President William McKinley accused Roosevelt of killing him, had been stalking the former president through 8 states in order to assassinate him. What? Diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, Schrank was imprisoned at an institution for the criminally insane, where he would die in 1943.
See, you realize how, you know, all of these killers are mentally insane. Is that really the case though, guys? Like, come on.
Andrew Jackson. On January 30th, 1835, Andrew Jackson, the 7th president of the United States, was attending the funeral of South Carolina Congressman Warren R. Davis at the U.S. Capitol. As Jackson was leaving the funeral, he was approached by Richard Lawrence, an unemployed house painter with a history of mental illness. Lawrence aimed a pistol at Jackson and pulled the trigger, but the weapon misfired. Undeterred, Lawrence pulled out a second pistol and fired again, but this weapon also misfired. Witnesses described the sound of both pistols misfiring as resembling a small explosion, but remarkably, neither shot struck Jackson. Known for his fiery temper and toughness, Jackson immediately charged at Lawrence, using his cane to defend himself. Several bystanders, including Davy Crockett, a congressman and American folk hero, quickly intervened and subdued Lawrence. Jackson was unharmed. Richard Lawrence was quickly apprehended. During his trial, it became clear that he was mentally unstable. He believed that Jackson was preventing him from becoming the rightful heir to the British throne, and that the U.S. government owed him a large sum of money. Lawrence was found not guilty by reason of insanity and spent the rest of his life in various institutions. Franklin Delano Roosevelt. On February 15, 1933, an assassination attempt was made on President-elect Franklin Delano Roosevelt in Miami, Florida. Roosevelt was giving a speech from the back of a car to a crowd when an Italian immigrant named Giuseppe Zangara fired several shots at him. Although Zangara missed Roosevelt, he struck several others, wounding 4 people, including Chicago Mayor. Zangara missed Roosevelt, he struck several others, wounding 4 people, including Chicago Mayor Anton Cermak. Cermak later died from his injuries. Zangara was quickly apprehended and later executed in the electric chair. Harry Truman. On November 1st, 1950, an assassination attempt was made on President Harry Truman at the Blair House in Washington, D.C., where he was staying while the White House was undergoing renovations. 2 Puerto Rican nationalists, Oscar Collazo and Griselio Torresola, launched the attack in an effort to draw attention to their cause for independence. Collazo and Torresola approached the residence with firearms and began firing. Torresola shot a guard and managed to get into the grounds, while Collazo was apprehended after being shot in the leg. The attempt was neutralized and Truman was unharmed. Both assailants were captured, and Torresola was sentenced to death, while Collazo received a life sentence. Gerald Ford. President Gerald Ford faced an assassination attempt on September 5th, 1975, in Sacramento, California.
Wait, Gerald Ford. Wait, is that the dude that made the Ford car? So the person that made Ford is Henry Ford, not Gerald Ford. My bad, guys. I got that a little mixed up on that. I'm sorry. Wait, my face cam was messed up this whole time? Oh, I didn't even freaking realize that. Oh my gosh. So why didn't you guys say nothing?
As he exited the California state capitol, Lynette Squeaky Frum, affiliated with the Manson family, aimed a gun at him. Quick action by the Secret Service resulted in her immediate arrest.
Yo, this has got to be like the first female assassin. Has to be.
Ford too. Just a few weeks after the first attempt, President Gerald Ford was again targeted on September 22nd, 1975. This time, Sarah Jane Moore tried to shoot him as he left
another female assassin? Yo, that's 2 for 2.
A speaking engagement in San Francisco. Ford escaped unharmed once more, with Hinckley being swiftly detained by law enforcement. Bill Clinton. On October 29, 1994, President Bill Clinton faced an assassination attempt when Francisco Martin Duran fired multiple shots at the White House from a nearby street. Clinton was inside at the time. Duran was quickly subdued and later received a 40-year prison sentence for the attack. George W. Bush. During a visit to Tbilisi, Georgia on May 10, 2005, President George W. Bush was the target of an assassination attempt. An assailant named Vladimir Arutyunian attempted to throw a grenade at Bush while he was giving a speech, but it failed to detonate. The attacker was arrested soon after, and Bush remained uninjured. Barack Obama.
Barack Obama got no.
In November 2011, 21-year-old Oscar Ramiro Ortega Hernandez attempted to assassinate President Barack Obama by firing shots at the White House from a nearby location. Believing he was targeting the president, Ortega's actions raised significant security alarms. He was apprehended shortly after the incident and later sentenced to prison. Donald Trump. On June 16, 2016, an assassination attempt was made on then-presidential candidate Donald Trump at a rally in Las Vegas, Nevada. A British national named Michael Stephen Sanford attempted to seize a police officer's gun with the intent to shoot Trump. Sanford approached the officer under the pretense of seeking an autograph before attempting to grab the weapon. Sanford was quickly subdued by law enforcement officers on the scene, and Trump continued with his rally without incident. Sanford later admitted to the plot, stating that he had been planning the assassination for about a year and had traveled to Las Vegas specifically for this purpose. Donald Trump, too. On July 13, 2024, when presidential candidate and former President Donald Trump was at a campaign rally, he was hit on the ear by a gunshot fired by Thomas Matthew Crooks, a 20-year-old man from Pennsylvania. One civilian was also killed, while 2 others were critically injured. The shooter was quickly neutralized.
Okay, hold on. I know that Donald Trump, I know he got hit, but I didn't know like other people died though. Kind of crazy.
By a Secret Service agent. This was the first time a presidential candidate, a 20-year-old man from Pennsylvania. One civilian was also killed, while 2 others were critically injured. The shooter was quickly neutralized by a Secret Service agent. This was the first time a presidential candidate was injured, as well as a former president in over 40 years.
Wow.
If you want to discuss this video or suggest...
Man, honestly, bro, now that I'm really thinking about it, bro, becoming a president is actually scary because now you got to worry about people assassinating you for what? All right, you guys, the test is officially over. Professor Edward is going to collect the results. And when I look at your results, it better say 12 out of 12 or else. But that's my time, guys. All right, everybody have a good day. See you guys at the next one. All right, everybody stay safe. All right, let's go.